The Earnestly Speaking Podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking Podcast, recording this Tuesday afternoon around 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday, April 4th, 2026. Hope you guys finally did your taxes. I just did mine. I got my return actually recently, finally. Dealing with the IRS is a pain in the ass though. You know, it's funny how like if you want to get information, it's a pain in the ass, but they'll go through hell and high water to get a hold of your ass. You know, it's crazy. It really is crazy. Anyway. First solo episode we've done in a while, and I know a lot of people who are fans of this podcast have been complaining. I guess complaining is the wrong word, but they have asked recently that, you know, you've been doing a lot less of solo shows lately on the feed. Why is that? And look, it's not to say there's no content on the feed. We're enjoying our content, very, very, very often. In fact, I think the last solo show I did was actually wow. Oh my God, I'm looking at the archive right now. The last solo episode I did, where I'm just talking and just shooting the shit with you guys, February 15th, 2026 was the last solo show I did. Now, that's not to say I haven't done any other work. As you guys see on the feed, we've been pumping out content like crazy. We're putting out content at least 5-6 days a week now, and it's not on purpose necessarily. I'm not going to sit here and say to expect a show every day or 5 days a week, whatever. We don't technically have a schedule, although there are some shows that do land on certain days that I committed to putting out, like the stuff I've done with my wife, this or that and whatnot, which by the way, we're going to be rebranding that very soon, next week, to a new show, which we'll be announcing in a little bit. The stuff with my kids I do every Sunday, that drops every Sunday on command. False Count has been dropping pretty much every Wednesday morning. The NBA show this week will be on Thursday, but we had to move it because of Greg's schedule. So there are some shows that do follow a certain schedule, and I'm not saying that I won't have a schedule. Not saying I won't have a show every day, but I'm not going to promise that there'll be a show every day. But here's the thing: I'm recording content a lot. I'm recording a shit ton of content. There's a lot of content I want to get to. A lot of content I want to record. That we just record, and we can just kind of put it out there. I mean, there's no shortage of content right now that I'm working on right now. I got stuff in the can for, bringing back the wrestling retro podcast very soon. We're doing I'm working on some stuff there. Music Lounge, same thing. Working on some stuff there for some episodes on the pipe, especially this summer. Lots of things I'm diving into, and sometimes I get overwhelmed at times. Like I'll, get into like a groove. I'm like recording. Not every day, but I do. There is the good thing about podcasting is that there's a lot of flexibility in how you can do this. Like a lot of these shows, for example, are pre-recorded weeks in advance. Like especially the ones that are not evergreen, like the stuff with my wife and my kids. A little behind baseball here. Those shows are recorded weeks in advance sometimes, and we just put them out differently. Like I'll record, for example, with my kids. Like I will do 2 shows with my oldest son, and then 2 shows with my youngest son, right? And that's 4 episodes right there. That's a whole month full of content that will trickle down every Sunday. Because again, the content we're doing there with them is very evergreen. So that's why it works that way. Same with my wife for the most part, evergreen material. So that's why it works out. So The only material that really I have to worry about week to week at this point is Falls Count, which is the pro wrestling show we do every week for the most part. The NBA show, which is obviously seasonal as well too, also, and the playoffs start this week. And then of course we have football during the year, during the fall. Of course we have EJ versus Degenerate, and then doing the game report every so often. So there's a lot of things coming down the pike, and like I said, we're going to continue putting out good content for you guys. I know you guys have been enjoying the content, and I really appreciate you guys' support. So great job. But this is also the reason why there's been less solo shows too, also because number one, not a lot to talk about right now, honestly. And what I do is I'm starting to make the solo shows now a little more focused to my personal life and venting and whatnot. But sometimes there are things I don't need to talk about, so I'm not going to do anything. So I've been, trying to figure out, okay, can I just do a solo show once a week? One reason why I created the EJ's Random Week was because there's something I want to talk about all the time. That's just something short, and I can just get it in and get it out. 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Vent, get my rant out of the week, and I'm good. That's not technically a solo episode like this one where I have numerous topics. That's focusing on one topic that I'm hot about at that point. But it does give me an avenue to have something that I can do once a week that's on the solo-ish end. Now, the schedule is going to... Here's what I'm going to say. Because a lot of these shows on the feed, especially too, is not just shared by me. I do it with other people, like False Count done with Rob. NBA shows done with Greg. When football's around, EJ Regenerate is done with Zach. I have to make sure that the schedules, while we try to stay on the schedule, and for the most part we do, there are times, like this week, for example, Greg can't do the show today on Tuesday. We're going to move to Thursday, which is fine. We need that flexibility too also. So I don't necessarily set the table where okay, there's a pattern, but it doesn't mean that sometimes we aren't flexible enough to move around the schedule and whatnot. So anyway, so that's just that. So, but I will do a better job of putting up more solo shows. The goal is right now, if I'm going to do that, have at least maybe one solo show a week. I was thinking about me doing one every 2 weeks now. Maybe we'll see. Maybe jump on a Saturday or something. Keep the lines open. I like to. There's so much content coming on the pike now that it's actually worth just having. I can technically fill in 7 days a week of content. Technically, I can do that, or I can pile on days and just have two episodes in a day and whatnot, and just put that out there. It depends. I don't know. That's how I'm feeling, but I'm just glad you guys are enjoying the content, and that's the reason why you haven't seen our soul shows in on this feed lately. All right, so on the personal end, you guys know I moved here to this new apartment here with my big garage and my studio I'm building here. Actually, I just got my couches yesterday in here, so I'm actually starting to really put together my man cave down here. But the main reason we moved to where we moved, now granted, we're still living in the same development, but the reason we moved where we moved is because we made the decision to make financial cuts in this household. Because there's a lot of changes right now. My wife and I are going through it now in terms of the future, in terms of nothing bad, all positive. But we're making some sacrifices here. And we now, 4 months into living here now, we are still on that trek of making financial cuts. So we've been really making a concerted effort to make some sacrifice on and the current spending. And especially now with the gas is going up and down again. Gas is going up for the last month and a half, with the Iran war and whatnot. Gas is now over $4 an hour, $4 a gallon rather. So we're making cuts here to kind of save money. Also, my job, why I love it very much, is while it's a great job, it does have ebb and flows of when it's busy. Our season is normally during the winter into the spring, and then after Easter, season pretty much ends and it dips up a little bit. Summertime tends to be very slow. So I'm very conscientious of how much money I'm bringing in and whatnot. And if it's slower, I can make sure I have money put away in case of emergency. So we're making a lot of cuts here. So one of the cuts one of the biggest cuts we made actually. First off, we by moving here to a new place here, we're saving over $400 on rent. Okay, and what we live at now. So that's a massive number we just dropped there. Our phones, my wife and I's phones. We had phones for now. These new phones we have for almost 2 years now. They're almost paid off. We're gonna be saving about $80 a month on a cell phone bill once we get that taken care of. And one of the biggest sacrifices we've done, especially from my wife's end, is as of this week, we are actually canceling our Disney annual passes, which actually runs us between me, my wife, and the kids about $150 a month. Okay. Now, granted, we do use them and we actually get the value on those passes. So it's actually a sacrifice now, right? Because it's not something that's like this is there and we just pay for. We actually use it. But between my oldest kid getting a little tired of Disney, we're actually considering maybe getting passes for Universal now because the kids want to do more challenging rides. Disney, I think we've maxed out at this point. Now I've gone so many times. There are rides I haven't done yet, but honestly, they're doing a lot of like construction work too, also on newer rides. So I'm not opposed to taking a year or two off and then going back, get passes in a year or two once things are leveled off and the park is updated. But we're making sacrifices here too. So we're now also come back on Disney passes. By moving here also too, my FPL bill dropped, my light bill dropped a ton, almost $100 a month. You got other things we're saying about. So we've actually, this move alone has actually netted us now in a sense where we're actually saving somewhere between $800 to $2,000 a month. And even then, I'm still looking at ways to save money. Not eating out as much, trying to cook at home, trying to, because by going out a lot too, also that's gas and that's another issue you have to really figure out. So we've been really making some concerted efforts to cut back on things at home and just make sacrifices. You know what I mean? Because again, some months are coming now. Gas price is high. It's gonna go a little slow at work. I got to be cognizant of that. So that's what I've been doing. That's kind of the biggest thing on my my personal life. Really, I'm adjusting to. And for the record, I don't mind it because you guys know when it comes to money as I get older, I'm a tight ass dude. I don't give a fuck. I am a tight ass because you know what? At this point, people say, "Oh, Ernest is so cheap." I'm not cheap. Number one, because I will spend money. Okay, I will spend money. I don't like wasting money. There's a difference between spending money on things you like that you're going to use, and then wasting money on things that you really, in the grand scheme, aren't going to use. And that's a big difference here. Okay, I don't like wasting money. And when you have a wife, you have a kids, and you have other things you got to take care of too also, and things got to be prepared for, and emergencies and whatnot, I don't give a shit if people think I'm cheap. I don't care. I don't care. Because you know what? If I'm in trouble now, are you going to save me to loan me money? Probably not. I'm not going to ask you anyway, but this is why I'm very, very careful about the money I spend, every so often. Not like again, we do, obviously, we will splurge. My wife and I will splurge. Like, we do save money for vacations. Like, we're going to be going to New York in September. That's the plan. I'm going for about close to a week, okay? We're going to miss a lot of work, all right? We have to save for that, okay? That's not a cheap trip because New York is not very cheap. Between the flights are okay, but between the hotels, between the spending money there and what activities we try to do out there in the city, ain't cheap, bro. It is not cheap whatsoever. So these things take sacrifices always. So we're trying to find things. And look, like I said, this is why I haven't gotten a new car yet because my wife and I's cars have been paid off a couple of years now. We enjoy not having car payments, but who knows? One of these cars might just stop working one of these days, and got my new car. Gotta have money for that put away. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking to save money while also experiencing things. And that's why we made the moves we made. And we continue to make financial cuts in this household. Now, I got to say, and I know I've been talking about this a little bit also on recent shows, but I'm going to dive into a little more heavier now. It kind of like now too also me that my interest in sports is waning. It's finally leveled off. There is no question that I am as passionate about sports when it comes to day-to-day that I used to. Not even in comparison to the team years ago. And how I know that is because I'll talk about this as soon as recent as last year. I would follow, the media shows on there, the ESPN shows, all the shows that are independent that's on YouTube I watch, and follow all the storylines and all this stuff. And that'll be my daily content, my daily diet of media in sports. And then the start 2026 happened. I was burnt out on everything, burnt out on sports, burnt out on politics, burnt out on everything all in between. And I made a concerted effort to just, you know what? I'm just tired of following this shit all the time. That in the grand scheme, does it really matter? Not really. Like, doesn't really matter that the Dallas Cowboys are America's team and, Dak Prescott's contract situation. Does that really matter in the grand scheme? Do we need to watch a 12-minute clip on Stephen A. Smith and his crew talk about that? Not really. And so I made an effort to say, you know what? I got books I'm behind on. I got books I've I've bought on Audible, books I have in my library that I have not read yet. Okay, I got movies and TV shows I'm way behind on. Okay, that I rather watch and invest in, other than instead of following sports. And then even the NFL playoffs, obviously I know what's going on in the NBA, and the NFL. It's been a lame NFL offseason for the most part. Okay, the free agency was okay. I mean, we had a little bit of a spark there for a little bit, but it came and went. The NBA season has been kind of, it's okay, but between the low management and the players, stars not getting the eligibility for the awards because they're missing 20 games. Yeah, I just feel like my interest in sports has definitely leveled off, and I will say declined. Again, do I know what's going on in the NBA? Yes. Am I watching every NBA game or watching a NBA game every night? I'm not. I haven't done that in months. Okay. I may turn on a random game. The Heat this year, yeah, they had a winning record, but they were frustrating as hell this year as a team. They're probably going to be one and done in the play-in, most likely. Okay. I don't know if they play tonight or tomorrow, to be honest with you. Probably tonight. But it just feels like that priorities have changed now for me in recent months, in recent years. And also to do, I think sports for me is also sharing real estate with the other things I love. Love talking music. And you've seen this podcast in the last couple months. I've been spending more time on this podcast creating content rather, doing, brackets and drafts and this stuff. It's WrestleMania season, so I'm a little more intrigued to wrestling right now this time of year. There's just other things I want to talk about right now, bro. Like sports is like in the grand scheme, it just doesn't matter. And it also makes it tough when these players, especially in the NBA, just don't care. Or at least seem like they care enough. So if you don't care enough, then why the hell should I care? I'm the one putting money in your pocket, okay? The Heat this year, like I said, was frustrating as hell. My brother went to a Heat Warriors game this year, and he wanted to go see Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. And he was in the arena, and they announced an hour before the game that Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler were not playing. How frustrating is that shit? Now, I know, I get it. The ticket says Warriors Heat, but you have the expectation that the best player on the opposite team, probably who only comes once a year, is going to play, and he wasn't there. And I'm not going to say he wasn't injured. It's just frustrating because it happens way too often, and most of the time it's because players are just. I'm sorry, these players today are wusses. They'll take a day off for a cut in a nail. Like, what are we doing, bro? Money is ruining sports. It really is. I never thought I'd say that. I never thought in a place where I feel comfortable saying that, because I for years have sat here and defended the NBA and defended the NFL and defended the fact that players need to have rights and players have this. Okay, cool. But you still have an obligation to perform, okay? We put money in your pocket, okay? For me and my family, go to a Heat game, just into your fucking building. Just to get into your building, it's probably going to cost you over $500. That's not including parking, which is a pain in the ass, parking in Miami, in downtown Miami, okay? Then plus you and food. So you're looking at easily over $1,000. And people don't have that kind of money these days. Have you seen gas prices, bro? Have you seen gas prices? Okay? The economy is not getting better. Inflation, by the way, as this morning, up to 4% now. As high as since 2023. So what are we doing? Okay? Players, all I know I'm picking on the NBA because it is the NBA playoffs now. Just be more self-aware, please. That's all I'm saying. And because now it's getting to the hardcores now. The disinterest now is getting to the hardcore fans now. And you don't want that. You don't want that. I've also recently started I think I've landed on book ideas. I've been saying for years now that I would like to write a book at some point down the road. I'm not working on one currently right now, but I'm gathering ideas, of course. So I do love writing, but this podcast has been so important to me, therapy to me, and the bigger priority of media that writing for me in the last 5 or 6 years has taken a back seat. I don't think I've written a blog in so long. But I have said that if I decided to write a book, to write again, I'd probably be in book form, make it count there. But the thing for me is that I've been stumped for a long time because I don't know what I want to write about. But I think in recent weeks, I've been really settling down, and I think I've come to a place where, like, okay, I'm not a fictional writer, so I'm not going to write anything fictional, of course. But I could write about the world at large, my life. I could write about a topic or a subject that I'm passionate about and just write a book. It's not going to be a long book either. It could be a short book. I remember G. Stelio, one of our regulars in the podcast years ago, wrote a 60-page book on relationships or how to court women. I can't remember what the book was, but it was a really good book. It's a really short book, but it was very creative. Things of that nature. And so I think now that I have an idea what I can narrow down, because at the core of who I am right now, yes, I'm a podcast host. I'm a commentator. I comment on things on the world at large. I comment on things on sports, on politics, on music. There's a lot of stuff I'm really passionate about. So there's a lot of subjects I can dive into where I can create multiple books. The question is going to be, do I have time? Do I have the patience to do it? Because I'm ADHD. My fucking brain goes all over the place. It's bad. It's really, really bad. So, but we are making progress on ideas. Like I said, don't expect anything anytime soon with a book. But if I do start narrowing down an idea and start putting some, but I say pen to paper, but putting some notes in a Google feed or Google Drive rather, to where I'm starting to write a book, I'll let you guys know. So, also what I'm working on too as well, I am also working on a podcast project. Now I've been talking about this a little bit on the Falls Count show. A project I've started with my good friend Ryan Michaels. What we're doing actually is that we're reviewing the first 14 WrestleManias. And we're, I'm taking notes and stuff and really just talk about, watching the shows as I'm watching for the first time and taking notes. And we lock in every week and we start talking about the shows. And those episodes are very long. So they're not easy. So just say, okay, we'll talk about the match and that's it. We unpack a lot of stuff. So every episode has been about 2 hours. Now, the show is not the podcast. The eventual project, when it's all done, will be out probably. We're hoping by the summertime, because there's a lot of post production going to be added to this thing after. And we're still halfway through the project. We still have to record, I think, another 8 episodes, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, we're actually recording WrestleMania 7 tomorrow night as recording. So I don't see this project seeing the light of day till at the earliest late summer, maybe in the fall, depending on how he does post-production. The deal was that if we did this project, because he wanted to do edits and stuff, I'm cool with that. I don't want a part of that shit. I don't have the time to do that. I have my own projects going on, got my kids, got the wife. I don't have the time like that, like he does. He's single, no kids. He can do what he wants and all that, so it works out great. Whereas he's the host, pretty much of the show. I'm the quote-unquote analyst. He adds to it and this and that. But it's been a very fun project. The only thing is that it's taken away 2 to 3 hours of my Wednesday night. So I have to work around the podcast let's do, which for the record has worked. We were actually doing two episodes a week for a couple weeks, but with the work schedule now it's late. We had to kind of dial it back to one episode a week. But we are moving through, and hopefully we should be done recording these shows in the next a month and a half or so. But it's been a fun project, man. I really, really, really enjoy working with Ryan. He'll be on the show, especially to do a solo episode with me at some point down the road, a conversation with me, as well as other things involving the Wrestling Retro podcast.
Would you like to answer a question right at this particular time? Would you like to do that?
All right, question time. Question of the week. We haven't done these in quite a while. I actually put this out probably 3 weeks ago, and only have time to actually get to it. So the question of the week for the show this week is: name an artist and or band that you would decline to see even with complimentary tickets or free tickets. Okay, so like I said, I like doing these and getting people involved on social media. So here's some of the responses here on Twitter. For example, Randy Clemens said Bruce Springsteen. Ooh, okay. That sounds very political, actually, to be honest with you, but whatever, it's fine. Ashley, MJ Fans Unite on Twitter says Chris Brown. Okay, thank you. Phil Kept on Twitter says Disturbed. What's going on, my man? Phil, good to see you. At Jolt in Joe 35 says the Eagles. I love them, but they wouldn't sound the same due to age. That's fair. That's a fair point there. All right, so some responses here on Facebook here. Jesse Dean Myers says STP with the new singer feels like sacrilege. I could do Kill Switch, AC/DC, etc. But this guy just seems like a Kmart version of Scott Weiland. No offense. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Probably is. Tim Wright, my old boss, says, all of them. I'm getting old and crowds don't sound fun anymore. Goodness, I hope you enjoy retirement, Tim. My man Joey Dolan says, all modern country music. I don't blame him for that. I'm not a big country. Although country today's not terrible. It's a little more infused with pop and rock and stuff, so I can deal with that. And Scarfoto says Kanye West. Probably for reasons, of course. Our good friend Zach the Degenerate, he says Pantera. I think that's like a dig at me. We'll get him on that one later. Ryan Heckman, he says he has Taylor Swift, Sam Smith, Pink, Bruce Springsteen, another one. Kendrick Lamar, Beyonce, I can go on. Give me a band with a nasty leftist agenda. Okay, whatever. Your opinion, I respect that, but come on now. Andrew Miller says all country, all Christian, Kid Rock, and anyone else involved in that nasty, grifty Turning Point show. All right. Tiffany Eisner says The Weeknd. Wow, I'm surprised at that. Linkin Park, Sexy Red, any of these new ephemeral artists like Chapel Roan and the like. I get that. Linkin Park was great with Chester, definitely live. I'll tell you that much. Marcel McGray says Static X now and the cover band, also known as Pantera now. Dude, Pantera was pretty good. I saw them open Metallica last year. They were pretty good, so I disagree with the Pantera part. Todd Vandenberg says, I would say Kid Rock, but he's not an artist in any sense of the word. Never been a Kid Rock fan for the record, so I get it. Richard Roach says, Willie Nelson, he was bad when I saw him at the Grand Biloxi 25 years ago. Now, 25 years later, in his 90s, I doubt he has recovered. All right, Mark Hartenstein, intern Mark, says, Lamb of God. It turns out they're not Christian rock. I had to see them twice just to make sure. I know he's joking in that one because Lamb of God is actually one of my 3 favorite lab bands of all time. They are incredible live. By the way, hopefully be on the podcast very, very soon. Matthew Rodriguez says, depends on the openers. First answer I thought of was Falling First. Rather sell the tickets. I saw them a couple years ago as well. They're pretty good. Not terrible, but they're all right. Melissa Cabrera says, emo, punk rock, screamo. Totally get it. Ronnie Rossamano says, 182 plus any emo, Guns N' Roses, Five Finger Death Punch, Rage Against the Machine, Smashing Pumpkins. I'm a little shocked by the last couple bands here. Five Finger Death Punch, I can't stand. GNR now probably wouldn't be a great watch. Axl Rose looks, he doesn't look that great. Rage and Smashing Pumpkins I think would be pretty good still. Gail Escobar says, The Eurythmics / Annie Lennox. Charlie Thrower says Rob Zombie. JD Snyder Jr. says Rage Against the Machine. I have zero respect for them, and they are such fucking hypocrite scumbags too. I would never go see them, even if you paid me. I hated them since after Evil Empire, before it was cool to hate them. Jason Roberts says Black Veil Brides. My mom said time on this one. She says Vanilla Ice. Dude, come on, be nice. Samara Wiener, my one of my best friends' wives. Hi, Samara, how are you? She says Taylor Swift. Okay. Flip Stickles says Billie Eilish. Our own Ryan Miller says Sheryl Crow. Tiana Gaines says J-Lo. No surprise there. And finally, our old friend Stephen Bornstein, he says Nirvana. All right, for me, the artist, I'll split this in two. The artist you could not pay me to go see easily is John Legend. I look, I'm not saying he's not talented. He's a very talented guy. I think he's won a Tony, a Grammy, Oscar, and a what else? The other one? Tony, Grammy, Oscar, and what it was. But he's very well accomplished, very talented. He just bores me to tears, dude. John Legend just bores me to tears. And the band I would choose in that one, I want to say Kiss, but I feel like, which I don't like Kiss, I feel like because the live shows are probably really, really, really good. I probably would I probably enjoy the live shows because of the spectacle alone. I'll tell you, this is a band I do like actually, but I don't think I enjoy them live. Maroon 5. Maroon 5 has gotten way too popular. Look, they're good. I like the first couple records and songs here and there, but I feel like they won't be a great live band though. I don't know. I've never heard great things about them being live. And I'm because of live bands and whatnot, I'm very, 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 very picky. So there's that. And that will do it today for this solo episode for about time. After a long time on the show. Again, dated 14th, 2026. If you haven't done any taxes, Get it done. You got 1 day left to do your taxes before it is over and over. Okay, again, I'm an X at EJ Christian 7. Earnestly Speaking Podcast, because all podcast catchers enjoy all the content coming down the pipe. We got a lot of shows coming this week. Be ready for it. And until the next solo episode, when we see you, love you guys. Take care and stay up. Later.